There was a small child named Alice who lived in a world not too dissimilar from our own. She was going to school, playing with friends, and having a typical childhood like any other child. But Alice began experiencing unusual things one day. She seemed to have entered a different kind of dream from the typical one. Her dreams were full of fantastical locations and odd animals that seemed to defy comprehension. Alice had no idea that she was going to set out on a voyage that would completely upend her routine. The strange dreams grew increasingly real as the days passed, and Alice couldn't get rid of the impression that they were unique. She began to see things that others could not, such as a smiling cat that materialized and vanished at will. She was confused by these enigmatic images, and many around her were unable to comprehend what she was seeing. Confusion and fascination had ensnared Alice, who was doing her best to make sense of the fantasy world that was intruding on her real life. Alice felt a subtle shift in her surroundings. As the nightmares began to infiltrate her evenings and occasionally bleed into her waking hours, she noticed that she was losing track of time. The once familiar surroundings began to change into alien landscapes, and commonplace items acquired bizarre new meanings. Her loved ones, who were unable to understand the fanciful voyage Alice was unwittingly embarking on, noted her growing distance. The dreams were more than just dreams now. They were a doorway to a world where imagination and reality coexisted and made it difficult to distinguish between the two. Alice had no idea that these strange symptoms would subsequently be recognized as the Wonderland Syndrome. Day by day, Alice felt more and more ensnared by the Wonderland Syndrome, drawing her farther and more into a world where reason and logic were only ideas. Her new normal was the extraordinary that started out as the ordinary. Alice stood at the entrance to a wonderland she had not yet completely understood in the middle of this enchanted pandemonium, her voyage into the unknown having only just begun. Alice was in a location she had never been before as she dozed off one evening in what appeared to be an average sleep. It was known as Wonderland, and it was a rainbow of hues and peculiarities. As far as the eye could see, strange landscapes stretched out, greeting her with whimsical creatures. Alice first encountered the grin-sporting Cheshire Cat, a cat that could materialize out of thin air. Alice was led by the Cheshire Cat, who appeared to be aware of her bewilderment, through this mysterious world. Alice met the Mad Hatter, a figure as bizarre as his moniker implied, during her travels through Wonderland. Alice's perception of reality was put to the test by the Mad Hatter, who delighted in Wonderland's absurdity. She also met the Queen of Hearts, a strong and erratic monarch who had a tendency to make snap judgments. With each interaction, Alice drew nearer to the center of Wonderland as the line separating her dreams from reality became increasingly hazy. Through her exploration of Wonderland's unusual environments and interactions with its eccentric populace, Alice started to piece together the mysteries surrounding the Wonderland Syndrome. With its mysterious wisdom, the Cheshire Cat left Alice with ambiguous clues on the nature of her illness. In his wacky style, the Mad Hatter pushed her to accept the turmoil and look for significance in the ridiculous. Wonderland was a symbolic mirror reflecting Alice's inner world with each obstacle and interaction. It became evident that the Wonderland Syndrome was a process of self-awareness and comprehension rather than just a coincidental event. As Alice explored more of Wonderland, she came to understand that the solutions to her problems were inside of her. The mystical world turned into a canvas on which her feelings and ideas formed a picture of the internal conflict she was going through. The layers of Alice's mind started to reveal themselves as Wonderland's riddles did. The investigation into the Wonderland Syndrome evolved into a profound psychological and spiritual journey as well as a physical adventure through fanciful settings. At the center of Wonderland, where the Queen of Hearts held the key to unlocking the mystery that had taken possession of her reality, Alice stood to find the answers. Alice was about to face a pivotal moment that would put her determination to the test and reveal the actual nature of the Wonderland Syndrome. Alice had to deal with the fearsome and capricious Queen of Hearts in the center of Wonderland. When Alice was approached by the Queen, who had an intimidating demeanor, the tension increased. The citizens of Wonderland watched the altercation anxiously, understanding that the outcome would determine whether or not the Wonderland Syndrome was resolved. The Queen of Hearts put Alice through a number of difficulties while she held her ground. These difficulties weren't merely physical, they also represented Alice's internal conflicts and uncertainties. The Queen made Alice face the darkest recesses of her psyche, representing the disorderly aspect of Wonderland. The fight of wills and understanding between Alice and the Queen of Hearts was the pinnacle of the story as she faced out against her with her newly acquired power and self-awareness. The story came to an end when Alice overcame the Queen of Hearts' difficulties. Once a symbol of chaos, the mysterious king unveiled a startling depth of knowledge. Alice had a flash of insight when she realized that the Queen was a reflection of her own complexity rather than an enemy. When Alice embraced the teachings she had learned in Wonderland, the Wonderland Syndrome, which had previously caused confusion and turmoil, started to fade. Wonderland changed when the Queen of Hearts kindly acknowledged Alice's development. The surreal settings grew calm, and the previously odd species seemed to exude harmony. The Wonderland Syndrome's conclusion resulted in a significant inside metamorphosis for Alice in addition to an outward victory. She left Wonderland a strong, enlightened person rather than the victim of an enigmatic syndrome. Alice said goodbye to Wonderland after resolving the Wonderland Syndrome. The magic continued when she returned to her normal life. Her adventure had a subtle effect on her world, igniting her curiosity and feeling of wonder. Alice's story, which is one of self-discovery, resiliency, and the enduring magic that exists inside the commonplace, was influenced by her adventures in Wonderland. After her incredible voyage through Wonderland, Alice returns to her usual life at the end of the play.